This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Ben Leber at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, at Nacho Leber via X. And watch him on TV each and every weekday, Twin Cities Live, 3 to 4:30 on the 5, on Channel 5, 3 to 4:30. Twin Cities Live. He and Elizabeth do wonderful work with that show. Likewise for everybody behind the scenes, putting that thing together. It's quite enjoyable. And day 2 of the Ballyhoo Joints is in front of us, and we're excited for some hot joint practice action. And Ben joins us now. Now, all eyes are on J.J. McCarthy, and as of yesterday, some was good, some was problematic. Raising kids can be tough sometimes, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think we you want to actually talk about raising kids, because that is tough.
It can be.
No, I think this has fallen in line with what we expected at the start of training camp. I think everybody was like, look, we're very excited. I think, the ceiling's very, very high for him. But at the same time, we have to temper those expectations with what is reality. The reality is that there's going to be a lot of things that he hasn't seen yet. Even the things that he has seen in some more competitive environments, he hasn't seen a lot of reps of. And, we all know that this is a repetition game. And getting comfortable with those reps, all the different looks, all the different coverages, and then getting used to the fact that things don't always go the way that they're planned. There's going to be a communication breakdown. A guy might run the wrong route. He might read the wrong leverage. You might not get the protection you want. You might have to scramble out of the backfield and make a throw on the run. All of those things you just need hours and hours and reps on. So the fact that I hear those reports now, I was out here yesterday watching mostly the defense, but when I hear the reports that he had an up and down day, I'm like, well, that's kind of expected,
right?
That's what training camp's for.
Which means you watched Drake May, and Drake was up and down too. I mean, he's lofting some things that don't look great, and then there's a bust, and there goes Mac Hollins, or there goes Diggs with Okuda getting spun around and stuff. Yeah, I'm glad you led with that, and I'm glad you watched that yesterday. Now, let me start it here. When you took part in joint practices, how much time, if any, would you guys put into what the other guy does? Because I have a point here.
Not
much, right?
Not much.
Okay,
No.
You can just stop right there.
Yep.
Somebody told me yesterday, not from the Vikings, maybe from the other side, is the Patriots actually spent a fair amount of time before they got here, and when they got here at the Omni, on, as it was put to me, the multiplicity of Brian Flores and how he does things with his front seven. It wasn't like the whole defense, but we have to be ready for this multiplicity, even if we're going to ask Brian, hey, Drake needs to work on this, so we need to get him to boot right. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, they did a bunch of that, so McDaniels and Flores will get together and they'll craft things and put stress on him here, weighty downs, as O'Connell likes to say. But I just never had heard it put that way, told that the Patriots worked on Flores' multiplicity, so they were ready for it to have a crisp practice.
Well, I think the last thing that you want to do with especially a young quarterback that Drake May still is come into a joint practice on the road and get embarrassed.
Yeah.
And get your confidence knocked down and then feel like I have no idea what this defense is doing, because it is unlike any defense that's in the league. It's not what the Patriots do. It's not what he's seen hours and hours of tape on in OTAs and minicamp and training camp. So I actually think it's smart. If you're facing a team that does things differently, you want to set yourself up for as much success beforehand. And I think Garrett Bradbury even talked about it. I think he was in the media saying that, look, he's been on part of the joint practices on the other side as a Viking, and he sees these teams come in ill-prepared, and they get embarrassed by our defense. And it's like, well, what good is that doing? You're not really giving if these guys, these starters, most likely are not going to play in the preseason game, and you're going to use these two joint practices as a culmination of one preseason game, well, then set them up for success.
Yeah.
Give them a good taste in the mouth. Make them go through the right reads and the checks, and when you've got this multiple defense, a lot of guys on defense, our defense will say, it looks complicated, but it's not. When the ball is snapped, it's still cover 3, it's still cover 4, it's still cover 2. he hasn't changed coverages. So it's like, how much can you decipher pre-snap to get into those things that you already know?
Right. With the Vikings defense, and I saw you put this at Nacho Leber via Twitter, but I don't have it in front of me. Some things that stuck out, like some one-on-one battles or stuff like that. What jumped out at you?
Well, it's funny because I was actually talking to Alex Boone and our guy Chad Abbott yesterday, and they had just gotten done with all the individual periods, and they kind of blew the horn, and everybody was getting set up for the one-on-ones, the competitive periods, the pass rush part of it. And they're like, we got to go. I go, guys, what are you doing? Like, I go, pass rush is right here.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't want to watch our defense. We want to watch our offense.
Yeah.
And so they walked all the way down to where you guys are right here and watch the one-on-ones with our offense and their defense. And I'm like, I'm staying put right here. I'm going to watch our defense against their front line. I did make a couple notes. You know, if you're a Patriot fan and you're watching the same drills, you could probably say that the Patriots collectively won that drill. We had some winners, we had some losers, but I thought Bo Richter actually looked really good. And he's the thing is, like, he's not a stereotypical pass rushing guy. He's undersized, shorter arms, but he's got such good technique and he's got a lot of tenacity, which he plays with. So I kind of made that note that Richter had a good day. Grenard just looks smooth as hell, man. I mean, every rep that he does, it's just, there's a plan. He executes it. Even if he doesn't get to the quarterback, it just looks good. I thought Tyrion Ingram Dawkins had a good day as well, rushing the passer. My guy Redmond had a couple wins, and then Williams, he had a nice couple wins.
99, right?
Elijah Williams had
I think he was on the
win.
practice squad last year. Yeah, he's gotten bigger. He's gotten stronger.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say he's going to crack the 53, but that just shows you how deep they are in that interior where you got guys like that who probably are going to be on the practice squad.
We mentioned that even on the broadcast from our production meeting that we had with KOC and Kwesi, and, I forget if it was you or Pete that brought it up, like, is the defensive front, the interior part of our defensive line, not necessarily outside linebackers, which that's a deep group too, but, like, is that the strength of this team?
Yeah.
And remember, Kwesi sat there and he looked away and he really pondered it and he thought about it and he really gave it the respect of, like, okay, I'm going to go through the positions in my mind. He's like, look, we got a really talented tight end group. We got a really talented running back group. He's like, yeah, I would agree with that. I think he's like, our deepest, most talented spot is our defensive front, and we've got a lot of guys that are going to end up probably on practice squad, some guys that end up being waived that are very talented players,
right,
that just because the guys in front of them are very, very good.
Andrew Van Ginkel not practicing this week, it sounds like. Does that necessarily lend then, hey, we're going to get to see more Dallas Turner? Did he pop it all, not pop it all? Where's your head at when it comes to Dallas Turner, as we're all gripping at the first-round pick, wanting to see more of him in year two?
To be honest, I feel like it's gone from a rolling boil to like a simmer on his training camp so far. I think Gabe Murphy, after his performance in the game and then in practice yesterday, once again, Gabe, when he gets his opportunities, whether it's with the ones or the twos, I think that he just shines a little brighter. I don't know if that means that he's going to leapfrog Dallas Turner, but Dallas he's got to keep the gas pedal down. I mean, he cannot take any days off. Just because people have been patting him on the back and saying he's had a great offseason, that's all well and good. But, when it comes to competitive periods, like I said, I watched him yesterday in the one-on-ones. It was okay. It didn't super impress me. He didn't make a lot of splashy plays in some of the team periods that I noticed. He could have if you watched the all-22 back, but from my eye test, it didn't seem like he was really flashing, and guys like Gabe Murphy were. So with Gink being out, which he was out last year, so I'm not worried about him being ready for the regular season, it seems like there's more opportunities for guys like Gabe Murphy that are stepping up versus Dallas.
With the joints yesterday in the one-on-ones, what did you see? How were the Patriots O-liners offering in terms of competition versus our guys on defense?
I thought very well. I mean, they competed their butts off. I would say, like I said in the beginning, that if you're a Patriots fan watching the same drill, you would say, well, that's a win for us. That's a win for us. That's a win for us. The thing is, when it comes to sacks, I mean, offensive linemen, it drives them crazy because they could probably grade out at a 99%, but give up one sack.
Yeah.
And the public's like, oh, you had a bad game, So it doesn't take many sacks for us to be like, oh, the defense kind of won that. I would say it was 50-50. They competed their butts off. Where we did win the drill is when they got done with individual one-on-ones and they started working on their stunts. their two-man stunts. I thought our guys out-executed their offensive line.
Really? Okay.
The way that we were able to pick guys, get on their edges, capture those shoulders, the way that we were able to kind of twist and get skinny and do all those things and work on that part of the game, I feel like we out-executed those guys. So that was good to see from a Vikings perspective.
Back to the QB for a second. As you were talking earlier and just kind of the up and down, a lot of that's to be expected, right? And Moore's on his plate. He's got to conquer more of this. Reps means experience, which means maybe consistency is what we're all looking for from McCarthy. Now, is there an aspect where digging into this, we needed to lead a guy here, overthrew, tough spot in this situation, would have wanted something else, throws a pick, etc. Is there an element where you can kind of dig into the fundamentals of, well, the decision-making makes sense? Like the ups and downs of camp practices and such, he's got room to grow, certainly. But I just haven't seen him make that completely boneheaded, idiotic play that's like, how on earth would you ever conceive that makes sense to do that in that spot? For the most part, through the ups and downs, I've seen his decision-making look pretty pure. Like, the things he's doing make sense to me, which kind of helps with my confidence in terms of seeing McCarthy move forward.
Yeah, same thing to me. I like the way that you laid that out. And I'll even reference the play that he missed through to Lucky Jackson over the middle in the game on Saturday. That, it's a double dig route. They had the inside receiver kind of cleared out, and then Lucky came in with a deeper dig behind. And everything worked perfect. Like the X's and O's of that play worked the way it should against that coverage. He knew it. He saw it. It was the right decision. Now he just needs to make a better throw. And to me, probably just take a little bit of hot sauce off that throw, knowing that the safety was getting cleared out. You had a bigger window than you thought. So those are the type of situations that you're like, hey, that yes, it's a missed throw. It's an incomplete pass. We'd love for him to complete that and keep moving the ball down the field and put the ball in the end zone. But it'd be different if he didn't see it. It'd be different if he double clutched that. And it was like, oh, he's unsure with that read. Why are you unsure with that read? That couldn't have played out any better. Like that's exactly what you wanted to have happen. So I do think that his reads are pure. His decision making is right and spot on. Now he's just got to work on kind of the finer tuning of getting that ball where it needs to go.
Did you see any tempers flare yesterday?
I did not.
None.
No. Did you guys see?
Yeah,
Midwestern sensibilities taking over training camp?
No, I think it's what Booney shared earlier, which I didn't know. The NFL requires tape from joint practices, just in case something unsavory happens. They know how to get that FedEx out there with how much money you got to pay. So I think people are on their proverbial P's and Q's with that. Didn't stop New England and Washington last week when Travion Henderson, what Washington, this linebacker, thought overzealously picked up a blitz and how would you put it? Tea-kettled he just knocked that guy flat on his butt.
Yeah.
Guy thought it was too aggressive, popped up, went after the rookie, and proverbial benches emptied.
Yeah.
But it didn't really get close to that yesterday. It's cooler today. It's more pleasant today. I don't expect it to happen today, and that doesn't mean it's fine. That doesn't mean it's anything wrong.
Well, here's the thing, though. The clip that we all saw, whether you're at practice or not, is Donovan Jackson out on the screen pass.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And ragdolling two smaller guys on their defense, some secondary guys, right? Well, what do you think happens in the meetings at night, right? Yeah. So that is a very obvious example of those two guys are going to get challenged.
Great point.
Now, I understand everybody understands that they're probably going to lose that matchup 9 times out of 10, right? It's just that you can't let the guy get a 2-for-1. Like, what one guy at least take him out, right?
Yeah.
Don't get ragdolled and he stays on his feet and you ragdoll somebody else.
Yes.
So, in the spirit of competition, even though the coaches deep down inside know that you're not going to win those battles in the open field like that, you're going to challenge those guys. And then if you get called out and you get punked in the meeting, well, then those young guys are going to be like, there's going to be some defensive lineman or linebacker, man, I got you, man. I got you. I got him tomorrow.
Right.
You watch out. He's mine, right?
Well,
so if you take those and you take maybe 4 more or 5 more examples of that happening in practice that we didn't see, where a guy is, giving a little extra something, like a little push after the whistle or
Jabril Peppers shoved T.J. Hawkinson on this field to the right of us yesterday, after it's not a shallow cross. It's a little deeper. Stutter step, bust left, got himself open, left Peppers flat-footed, caught it. Peppers mad, shoved him too hard. TJ rolled, popped up and kind of like, what?
Yeah.
And then went
What's
back
up,
to,
bro? Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, it little things like that when they start seeing it back, like, dog, you can let him do that to you?
That's exactly what's going to happen to me. Like, you can let him punk you like that? Like,
Right.
all right. And so I do expect,
That's great.
I heard you guys talk about it yesterday, that today is going to be the chippier day. And just because yesterday was very gentlemanlike and it was a lot of handshakes and love, the thing is, like, every meeting that they have in these joint practices, some coach is amping up some position group or some player, and those groups of players laid down last night and thought about how they're going to get retaliation today. So
Right.
I would expect there to be a little more fireworks today.
Okay, well, I'm going to say this hopefully for the final time this week, but I'll say it for a sixth time. Maybe you've heard it, you listen occasionally. That McCarthy drive in the Texans game, and I can find it, you probably saw it because you watch all 22. Tim Settle, this beef eater for the Texans, who's the starter, and he ain't great. I mean, he's good. He's going to last in the league a long time. Never going to sack the quarterback 6, 7, 8, 10 times. He fills a role, but he's super strong. Mm-hmm. Well, he caught Donovan Jackson on one of the early plays where Donovan, it's not like Donovan was tripped or slipped or anything. No, Tim got him, pushed him back 5 yards, could have thrown him down violently and chose not to. That's kind of the welcome to the National Football League moment for Donovan Jackson, specifically when they're in the meeting room, like, they're going to laugh. Dog, I mean, you're a first-round pick. I mean, seriously, you're going to let this guy do this to you? Okay, I don't know what clicked with Donovan, but that moment maybe needed to happen, needed to be seen by everybody in the room, Cooper and the assistant and everything, maybe having fun with it. Because right in front of us here on this field, closest to the Vikings Audio Network perch, I'm not going to say he won against Milton Williams. First and foremost, it's the closest I've ever seen Milton Williams, 97, the former Eagle. He's the bomb.
Yeah, beast, huh?
This guy's fantastic. And he got Donovan with a couple of twitchy, got around him a couple of times, but then Donovan picked up on it, stood him up several times, and they stalemated. Which, if you're a rookie and this guy's a veteran and he just got the fat deal of all fat deals, to stalemate with that guy is not a bad thing. So you could just tell with Donovan, he picks up on things quickly, he takes it personally, and that lower body strength, man, he's fast, as we saw yesterday on that Jones screen. But that lower body strength, he's so strong when he gets it set the right way.
Yeah, and that again falls in line with what KOC talked about in our production meeting. Like, they're so impressed with not only his lower body strength and the physicality for being a young rookie, but his ability to take all of the coaching and apply it into the next snap and the next snap and the next snap. So he is truly a guy that will take coaching. He doesn't make the same mistake twice. And, we're finding out pretty quickly that he's really going to benefit once we get into the regular season of watching a guy like, if Tim Settle was the guy that he was going to be lined up against in a real regular season game, he would have watched 5 days of tape on this guy. Mm-hmm. And that little quick, lateral step that he gave him to get his feet moving sideways and then bull rushed him, he's going to be ready for that. So just like what happened out here in practice, like, yeah, you get me once, that's fine. Now I understand your technique. I understand your movements.
Right.
I understand what I'm supposed to be looking at or what I'm not supposed to be looking at. I'm going to fix those mistakes, and he can do it in real time. That's really impressive.
Ben Leber at Nacho Leber via X. Watch him on TV each and every weekday, 3 to 4:30 on Channel 5. Twin Cities Live, it's TCL. Yeah, we have been until 11 o'clock. Then the Patriots Vox Bob Socci will come over and give us an adversarial update. After that, an interview I recorded yesterday with Lucky Jackson. He's punt returner 1 on the newest depth chart that came out for the Minnesota Vikings. That topic and some more with beloved Nacho when we return to Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, day 2 of the Joints, Patriots and Vikings on KFAN.
Your Minnesota Vikings take the field again this Saturday as the New England Patriots come to town. They already are in town for joint practices. Pregame starts at 10 a.m. The kickoff just after noon. Catch all the preseason action on your audio home for the Minnesota Vikings, KFAN, or as always in the free iHeartRadio app.
So Lucky Jackson has been listed as punt returner 1 on the newest Minnesota Vikings depth chart. Recorded an interview with Dontavion Lucky Jackson that you'll hear back about 45 minutes from now. And with Lucky, he returned some punts yesterday. Likewise for Mile Price. They tried Jalen Naylor. So without Rondale Moore, I mean, this is a work in progress that will continue Saturday at noon on KFAN and via the simulcast. But big opportunity for Lucky Jackson here. You know, Addison's down the first 3 games. By the way, Jordan Addison, I mean, if there was a better player on the field or fields yesterday than Jordan Addison, I need to know who it was. I mean, that Carlton Davis, he put a double move on Carlton Davis that, you know, was it Hal or McCarthy just didn't throw it because it would have been a sack. Okay. And I don't know if it took a little while to wait for the move to develop or whatever, but the ball wasn't thrown for whatever the reason. Man, he scorched Carlton Davis, their best corner, a couple of times yesterday. Addison was fantastic. But this Saturday, probably no Jordan Addison. Maybe, who knows? He's suspended the first 3 games. Then you got Jefferson, who's still out there working. Been working for about an hour, 20 minutes with the rehabbing of the hamstring trick. And after that, Jalen Naylor, Ty Felton, we know all the names. There's a legitimate chance for Lucky Jackson to make this active 53 as a receiver, not just practice squad guy, elevated Saturdays at 3 o'clock Central to return punts. I mean, his route running has gotten a lot better. Wonderful story he has, too. He's 28 years of age. I mean, he was out of football working. I think he worked for a trucking company. He worked for a school. He worked for, he had like 5 different jobs, as I learned yesterday. But nevertheless, punt returning is kind of the A topic right now with him. Hopefully he gets some chances this weekend.
Well, whatever you can do to make the team, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is about punt returns is it's tricky. I mean, you might have a super skilled athlete that can do all the things as a receiver and the quick twitch and all this other stuff, but it takes a certain mentality to go out there and catch punts.
Yeah. When
you've got 2 gunners that are trying to beat the press and get down there and decapitate you along with 8 other players out there. So I think for him and a lot of these guys, if you have the mentality, they can make something out of you as a punt returner. Because if you're a receiver in this league, you've already got pretty much the physical traits that they're looking for. And if you can go out there and you can play with that courage that they're asking for to catch those punts,
yeah,
then he's going to have the job. So, we want to talk about talking points going into this game. I mean, that'll be one of those things that we'll have to watch on Saturday.
Well, and Lucky, I asked him about how hard it is to return punts. He returned 3 last preseason, 12, 12, and 13. So he did it last preseason. He was responsible with it. He explains exactly how hard it is. It comes up in about 30 minutes. Then we're talking about people who have done it around here. And then I'm like, I had an interview a couple of weeks ago with corner Isaiah Rodgers, who may be the primary kick returner. I think he might have returned 1 punt during his NFL run and basically laid it out to me. Not only do I not like it, I'm not very good at it. So I just kind of know my lot in life, and that's not it. Well, Lucky's not really in that position to be like, yeah, I don't really prefer it. I mean, it's kind of hard. The way he explains it, he said, first and foremost, catching it, the punt, is really hard.
Right.
But it's the catching it, looking, you got to look, then you look up, then you look straight, then you look up, then you catch it, and they're on you. I'm like, damn, man, that's kind of scary.
There's a lot that goes into it, and that's the thing. If you're catching off a jugs machine, I mean, it's not too difficult. It's tricky, but once you figure it out and you get a couple reps, it's like, okay, I got this thing down. But when it comes off a real foot, and there's directional to it, there's spiral to it.
It's a banana ball.
There's banana ball to it. There's an Aussie kick to it.
Well, how about this win, too? I mean, if you threw $1,000 on the table and I went out there, even off the jugs machine, yeah, I'm not getting that money.
Yeah, Milton Williams already got all of it.
The depth perception, I mean, yeah, all of that goes in, it is a lot more difficult than anyone would ever think.
Yeah, I actually think it's one of the more complicated things to do on the field. I mean, take away, what quarterbacks can do. That's one of the hardest jobs in all of sports. But,
yeah,
when it comes to just like a sheer skill and to be good at it, in the environment of an actual game, man, there's a lot that goes into it. We take it for granted having a good, competent, and trustworthy punt returner because, I mean, how many times have you seen it? I mean, you catch the ball cleanly, and then you get hit and you fumble the ball, and then all of a sudden now you got the yips, and now you don't want to catch anything around traffic.
Wow.
And you're letting everything drop, and the ball's bouncing, and then takes a favorable bounce for the kicking team. It's like, oh, what are we doing here? We're a train wreck out here.
Hey, we were
Other than that, Miss Lincoln, how was the play?
Back to the defense momentarily. Talking about the defensive front last segment. What if they're dominating? What does that mean for an Ivan Pace and a Blake Cashman here? And what maybe are there different things that Flo can do with them defensively when you see what you're seeing out of a Hargrave and Allen and Phillips, etc.?
Well, my hope is, and I think there's a lot of Vikings fans out there that feel the same way. We were excellent against the run. We were excellent about causing disruption in the pass game, getting beyond the line of scrimmage. But what we were not very good at, quite frankly, is those intermediate throws. We give up a lot of yards in the passing game, and it is a feast or famine thing. So if we can just rely on the front five, let's call it the front five, the interior three, and there are two overhang players to get after it, then we have six guys in coverage and not have to use our inside linebackers to be blitzers, to be twisters. Then, hopefully we can stop the bleeding sometimes. It's like, I understand that there no defense is perfect. But sometimes our bend but don't break was really irritating and very annoying to watch.
How about DJ Moore and some of those over-the-middle catches in clutch time, specifically last couple of years?
And so that's where, and I do think that Pace, he's just got to be a better player in those situations. He takes a lot of shallow drops. I mean, he is a more in-the-box defender. I don't think that he's gotten enough reps and trusts himself sometimes with the route recognition. Cashman's unbelievable. He gets it. He knows how to take proper drops. And the thing is, like, these drops on paper, they might be 8 to 10 yards, but it is a feel. It is still something that you have to go out there and do, because some of these dig routes, some of these over routes, they might require you to be at 12 yards and not 8 or 10. And Blake is better at that than IP. And let's just hope that we don't have to be blitzing those guys all the time to get to the quarterback. Leave it up to the front five, and those guys can go out there and protect the pass game.
Later on in the show, PA and I we'll put a wrap on things. We're pumped for day 2. Joint practice is here. What are you pumped for in terms of day 2? Handling the defensive side of things? Are you going to be all offense today? See how the run game works? Catch more of the Donovan Jackson mowing people down? What does kind of excite you about this final joint practice today?
Well, I'll probably just go back to the obvious. If J.J. McCarthy had an up and down day yesterday, that was expected. I'm assuming that we didn't do as much film watching on their defense as they did against our defense. So now he's had 24 hours to chew on it. What did he do wrong, and how did they get to him, and what reads and throws can he make today to where instead of having a 50-50 day, maybe he has a 75-25 day. So I'm hoping that he can bounce back and say, kind of like we were talking about with Donovan Jackson, we're doing the one-on-ones, like, learn from your mistakes. Come out here and fix those things, and don't make the same mistake twice. So let's hope that he has not just a good day, but an excellent day.
Lastly, with a couple of quickies before you leave, how do you feel about Jeff Okudah as a starting corner when they head to Chicago on September 8th?
I feel good about it. I feel really good about it. We all understand that he's going to be that big physical corner. It sounds like they're going to put him in that boundary side when they can, to really just like beat up those guys and not give them a lot of room to breathe. And if he fills that role and they just allow him to do that, then again, it's not an eraser situation. It's not like, Okudah's our lockdown guy that's going to travel everywhere. But if you have faith that he can sort of take away that 1/4 of the field or that 1/5 of the field when they're up against the boundary, then that's excellent. You can do something with that. So I do like his physicality. I like his athleticism. That's always been known, ever since he was a high round draft pick. Now he's just got to go out there and start making some plays in a real game situation.
And secondly and finally, Garrett Bradbury, who we're both fond of. Did you happen to catch any good moments between him and Jonathan Allen or him and Javon Hargrave? Because Bradbury, I would imagine, brought his A game yesterday. He doesn't want to come back here like it stood up every single play.
Well, that's the interesting thing is that, the guys I mentioned that were quote-unquote winners in my mind in the pass rush was a lot of our edge guys. And I thought Redmond had a good day in that capacity. But that being said, I thought Garrett and that whole interior offensive line actually played really well against us.
For them, right?
For them,
yeah.
In those pass rushing situations. So I did not talk to him. I didn't go over and say hi to him, but it seemed like he had a really good day, at least in those drills. It was harder to watch in the team drills, but it seemed like he looks the part, and I'm guessing that they're pretty happy with him.
Thanks, my brother. Appreciate you. Watch you on
too.
TV today, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Ben Leber, 3 to 4:30, Channel 5, Twin Cities Live, and each and every Monday and Thursday with the Power Trip, and Thursdays with 9 to noon. We'll be back after this.
Music legend Daryl Hall is taking over the Minnesota State Fair Grandstand August 28th. If you want a shot at a pair of tickets plus State Fair admission, you can check out KFAN.com keyword contest. See how you could win your way in. KFAN.com keyword contest.
Hey, here comes Bob Socci, one of our favorite play-by-play voices in the National Football League, calls games for the New England Patriots, and he is here for the joint practices, and day 2 begins an hour and change from now. We welcome you to Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, and what do you think of the facility? What do you think of the whole setup, Mr. Socci?
Well, Paul, Bill Belichick used the term Taj Mahal when we were in Las Vegas several years ago at the Raiders' new facility, of course, in Henderson, Nevada. That doesn't begin to describe this facility. I texted yesterday to my broadcast partner back in Boston that it was a great facility, and then I had to correct myself. It's a campus. I think the fan amenities are terrific. First of all, the hospitality here. Your staff lives up to Midwestern hospitality in every way. People could not be friendlier, more welcoming, more accommodating to us New Englanders, and you know how we can be at times, especially in the media circles back in Boston. But it's fantastic. I can't imagine a better workspace, vast as it is, for Kevin O'Connell and his staff, and for everybody associated with the organization.
So like the Patriots, Foxborough, Gillette, is that where they do training camp?
It is where they do training camp, and they are building a new facility adjacent to the practice fields. If you look at the NFLPA surveys, the Patriots didn't fare too well. They did add a football facility to Gillette Stadium not too long ago, but in the arms race that exists in major college football and now in the NFL, as we see here, and I mentioned Las Vegas and some of the other new facilities. And I go back to when we first went to Philadelphia in my first year in 2013. I was blown away by the NovaCare Center in South Philly. Now,
I've been there. That place is cool.
It's cool, but it certainly pales in comparison now. It looks old in every sense, now. And so for the Patriots, they're trying to catch up. And they do have a new facility that's being built adjacent to the practice fields. But they do practice right there behind Gillette Stadium. Good turnout. But, there is something special, too, about a campus feel. Now, in this case, you're so close to Minneapolis. I have never been to a joint practice at a college campus. The Steelers in Latrobe, or when other teams go away on campus. I have been to the Greenbrier in West Virginia, which was an interesting place to watch practice, but not the same feel.
Really? And I'm glad you said that, because the Vikings played the Texans last weekend, and they spent 4 days at the Greenbrier. So they leave on a Monday, then they practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, part of Friday, come to Minneapolis Friday, play Saturday. Our cohort, Mark Vandermeer, and his sideline analyst, John Harris, I've got to know them really well through the Combine. And so we had John Harris on the radio show last week, and he was describing the Greenbrier. I've never been to it. I mean, you talk about posh and Tony. I just wonder, why do they have football fields at this vacation resort?
It is opulence, and it is exorbitant. I will tell you that. If the accountant at your station is as strict with the numbers as the one at mine, it's not an easy place to get by on your per diem, however high it might be. But it is an interesting setup. I believe that there was some connection originally to the owner and Sean Payton. Because the Saints were a team that trained there initially, and we went there for joint practices with the Saints. We followed up another year and had joint practices there as well with the Texans, and then flew to Houston to play the game. But as grand as the
facility
hotel is, the facility itself is nothing to write home about.
Right.
You know, it also takes like a day and a half to get there because you have to take so many different. It's planes, trains, and automobiles. You got to fly to Dulles or Reagan, and then rent. And usually, if the team is going to fly out of there, the runway doesn't allow enough space for a plane big enough to carry everybody. At least from our experience. Yeah. So those of us on the periphery, had the puddle jumpers.
But Bob Socci, the box for the New England Patriots Radio Network. Is this? Do you guys still use two planes? Because I remember the owner Robert Kraft, like a few years ago, whether it was a mechanical, and I mean, how many tarmacs have we sat on where it's like you're ready to go, and then now 2 hours later or 90 minutes later they've had a mechanical because the planes, the charters that they're using for a lot of these NFL teams they're in service, but they've been out of service, so that they're the primo planes you're generally not getting. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think Patriots owner Bob Kraft was like, "Forget this. I'm buying two planes. We're gonna craft them, pardon the pun, exactly how we want. They're always gonna run, and we're never gonna have this problem."
Yeah, several years ago, when the Patriots, like a lot of teams, were in the business of chartering aircraft, Delta was the airline that chartered us, and it was great service, great plane. But then as the airline started cutting, to my understanding, back on the large aircraft, started overselling the smaller aircraft,
right,
they kind of got out of the charter business for a brief time. And so Robert Kraft and the organization made the decision, let's buy our own planes. And they bought a pair of planes, refurbished them.
That's so cool.
The Patriots have used them, and they did refurbish them again this year.
Wow. So you're never three across on any trip?
I can't say that. I can't. I'm not supposed to divulge the details.
But you're not in the middle with Milton Williams on one side and Kairos Tonga on the other.
Well, I got Scott Zolak next to me. You see my broadcast partner.
Yeah, he's a big one.
That's enough. There's a lot of gesticulating. Those elbows are flying everywhere during a plane ride. But it's I think a great idea on their part, and they will use the planes to at times lend to charitable organizations. During COVID, they flew the planes to China to pick up medical supplies on the request of the Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker at the time. They have leased those planes out to fly teams. There's a women's professional football team in New England that has been the dominant team in the Women's Professional Football League that I believe is on hiatus right now, but they have taken it to their championship game. So they've used it in a lot of different ways for some charity, but also to take advantage of simply the business opportunities that are there with it as well.
Well, you mentioned your radio partner, Scott Zolak. Well, nice of him to come to the joints. I mean, he stayed back in Boston, didn't he?
He did. He stayed back in Boston, and he's doing his show right now as we speak. And no doubt, he has his inside sources trying to feed him everything that's going on here. I'm not one of them. I don't know if he trusts my football opinion. But I love being out here. I think the joint practices, for me, especially when you're on the road, are maybe as valuable, if not the most valuable part of the experience in preparing for this season, where you really have an opportunity, extended opportunities, in fact, to get to know your players and your coaches in a lot of respects. And we have a new staff, as you know,
right,
Paul, and a lot of new guys on this team. Tremendous turnover.
Yeah.
What's that been like in terms of whether it's a reversion to maybe a more Belichickian existence, or is it a resurgence? Gerard Mayo a year ago gets the 1 year, and now Vrabel's back. Everyone knows his name and gets him from that angle. But as a coach now, how's he handling everything?
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in between. I think Mike takes a lot of Bill Belichick's best qualities as a head coach in terms of attention to detail, the discipline that you expect from Belichick teams. As when the Patriots were playing so well through the years, I think the same will be expected of Vrabel's team. I think that, however, there are differences where Mike is a lot more like Gerard in that he played the game and has a player's perspective in a lot of ways and really relates to the players. There's a connectedness between Mike Vrabel and the players on a personal level that I don't know that Bill ever experienced. Certainly when you hear players talk about him, they speak differently than the way these guys talk about Vrabel. But I think the things that stand out about this team, this staff right now, is there is a real cohesiveness on the staff. A lot of these guys were with Mike in Tennessee. The people that he has brought in, including Josh McDaniels, back for a third stint as the Patriots offensive coordinator, it has been a seamless transition for them. So I think they really are on the, if you'll pardon the cliche, same page. Whereas I think last year, and even with the coaching turnover, the number of assistants who left Bill's staff in his later years, that didn't exist. And I think the messaging to these players is consistent. I think we've seen competence from this team. You know, just comparing this joint practice and Washington last week to Philadelphia a year ago, it was completely dysfunctional watching the Patriots get overwhelmed by the Philadelphia Eagles. Yesterday was a mix of good and bad. The offensive line is certainly a work in progress. A couple of rookies are going to start on the left side. Another rookie is going to see a lot of time at tackle in these joint practices. And they went up against Brian Flores' defense with the second-year quarterback new to the system. And, yeah, they had their problems, but they also made some plays.
Yeah.
And whereas I think last year they couldn't operate, it had that unit gone against this defense under Brian Flores.
I understand, Tom Brady moves on, I believe, into the 2020, if that's accurate, 2020 or 2021. So it's not as if Drake May is immediately following all-time immortality. But given the draft stock, and you go through Bailey Zappi, and you see some Cam Newton, you see some of those things that work and maybe really don't work, is there a weight on Drake, whether it's the fan base or just kind of feeling things out now? Vrabel's back. We feel like maybe there's some stability in the mix. Like the weight of Drake May, you think he feels that is all?
I think that the weight was somewhat relieved for Drake May in that he's the guy who followed the guy.
Yeah.
And that you alluded to Bailey Zappi, but Matt Jones is in there as well. And Matt Jones was the 15th overall pick and had a very competent rookie season. Patriots won 10 games, made the playoffs. Now, a lot of that was the way the team was managed offensively by Josh McDaniels, but to Mac's credit, he came into what could have been an extremely difficult situation and handled himself well. The following year, things got worse for him. Circumstances were vastly different with McDaniels gone, and Mac Jones fell off the rails for the Patriots. The offense more or less self-destructed with some coaching decisions. Joe Judge, Matt Patricia put in charge of the offense. That's history. Whereas I think Drake May comes in, there are a lot of expectations for him. He gave them a jolt of excitement last year. In the midst of a 4-13 season, following a 4-13 season, at least there was some offensive life, and almost all of it resulted from plays the quarterback made, often with his legs. And so I think that gives him a little bit of a honeymoon now in trying to adjust to the system. But he's got to win games. He only finished one win that he started last year. Two of those wins, he came out, Jacoby Brissett relieved him against the Jets, and then in the final game of the season, Joe Milton took over after the first series. So Drake May's got to prove himself. He turned the ball over a lot last year. There's been some turnovers in the last week, including a careless fumble in the first preseason game. And if that starts to occur the beginning of this regular season with frequency, I think that weight is going to get a lot heavier on his shoulders because, again, he's had this grace period, but that will soon end in New England.
Well, that fumble you talked about, that had to be the only thing that went wrong. And, I mean, seriously, there were two things that took place that last week. It's called Week 2 because of the Hall of Fame game, but it was really Week 1 of the preseason, is the Patriots ran up 48 points in a preseason game. Okay, that just doesn't happen often. The Vikings actually had a 94-yard touchdown drive with their backup Sam Howell, and it was a legit drive. I mean, passes, short, intermediate, stuff like that, and they closed on it. Those things don't happen often. But Bob Socci, play-by-play voice for the New England Patriots, with us on the perch. But I've been excited to ask you about this during the day because I've referenced it a couple of times and I saw the video. I just want to know when there were joint practices with Washington last week, and Travion Henderson, this Ohio State rookie, did his job. A little blitz pickup. my man up the middle, don't even know who it was. And then, I mean, that thing started to get nasty, that fight between Washington and the Patriots. What led to it? Like, who got pissed off and why?
There's always carryover in the joint practices. Maybe a play happens on another field, and then the emotions spill over on the adjacent field. And I think there was an incident that occurred on the side practice field, and then when they got out onto the main field, an 11-on-11s, guys a little bit jacked up, literally and figuratively. And I think in Travion Henderson, this is a kid, you mentioned that first preseason game, he ran the opening kickoff back 100 yards.
Unbelievable.
He's got something the Patriots have not had a lot of in recent years, and that's explosiveness, athleticism, true playmaking capability. But he is also as rugged as they come when it comes to pass protection for a running back coming out of college. Often one of the biggest adjustments running backs, as you know, have to make at the NFL, if not the biggest adjustment, is adapting to the NFL passing game as a blocker and being a pass protector. Takes great pride in it. And maybe, one of the Commanders took umbrage with his overzealousness or his physicality, and you're right, things did spill over. Mike Vrabel, the head coach of the Patriots, immediately dived into the pile. Will Campbell did as well, the rookie left tackle, plays with a nasty streak. I think they felt that maybe Henderson was being outmanned, outnumbered by some of the Commanders at the bottom of the pile. Vrabel said he went in there to break it up, but I think his players took that as a sign of, hey, this coach has got our back. He's very much hands-on when the Patriots are practicing. Not as much in the joint practices, but when they're practicing, he's got the scouting penny on, the vest out there with the number 24, number 5. He's in the middle of the scout team defense. He's got the pad on, working with linemen on techniques. And, well, the instincts of the old linebacker and special teams core player for the Patriots came out, and Vrabel dived into the pile, came away bloodied.
Right.
He had a scratch across his cheek, but no worse for the wear, and I think it earned him a lot more points with his players who already have a tremendous amount of respect for him.
It's way too early to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway and have you cast your gaze. Milton Williams, can you already tell he's worth the money? I mean, I've never seen him play live. I'm sure I have, but it with those Georgia kids in front of him, it just wasn't super noteworthy to me. So then we, play catch up with him in free agency in knowing the Vikings were interested in players like that, Javon Hargrave, Jonathan Allen, and so on. But watching 97 right in front of us here, these one-on-one drills against the Vikings offensive line, and they got some tough guys on the offensive line. Him and Donovan Jackson, the Ohio State rookie, that was worth the price of admission yesterday. Milton got around him twice. Donovan, deep breath, stalemated with him a fair amount of the rest of the one-on-ones. May not have pushed him back, but if you're a rookie and this guy's a ballyhooed free agent, stalemate to start, and we'll work on beating him later. But I didn't realize how big he was. I didn't realize how twitchy he is. But you got a good one there, didn't you?
Paul, the thing that's impressed me, too, about Milton Williams, he wins the Super Bowl. He gets the huge payday. He comes to New England, and he wants to prove himself as an every down player, or at least a defensive player who can give you 70+% of the snaps in Philadelphia in that rotation with so much talent on the defensive line. He played about half the snaps. The big test for him in trying to see how well, or project how well he'll play for the Patriots over the course of 17 games, is to see if he can make that adjustment now.
Right.
The demands on him in Philadelphia. And again, he had a lot of people around him who could make plays from the defensive front. This defense wants to get after offenses up front. It's not the Belichick style of defense where you're doing a lot of two-gapping on the defensive line. They want to get vertical. They want to apply pressure. And they not only have him, but if he can stay on the field after returning from blood clots a year ago, the third-year player out of Alabama, Christian Barmore, fourth-year player out of Alabama, Christian Barmore, has a real chance, along with Milton Williams, I think those guys in concert, to wreak havoc on opposing offenses this year, especially as weak as so many teams are around the league on the offensive interior.
Another new face to New England, not a new face to Minnesota, Stephon Diggs. Welcome to the Covenant, Mr. Diggs. Welcome back, Stephon, on the practice field. Interesting to watch him out there doing his thing yesterday. How has he endeared himself to New England and the Patriots? Certainly somebody that pairing with Drake May is going to be an important part of things.
Yeah, I think when he's been on the field and what we've heard about his presence in the facility, in the locker room, in the meeting rooms to this point, in the wide receiver room, it's all been positive. Watching him, it's been remarkable how quickly he's come back. I don't know how you may think differently, but I see a fluidity and a polish to his game that I haven't seen in New England. It reminds me of like a really slick fielding shortstop.
Yeah.
When he catches the ball, the soft. I thought yesterday he was running down the sideline with Byron Murphy, and he did something that we rarely see young receivers do, or even vets that we've had in New England through the years. He waited until the very last second to flash his hands up, and he made the catch down the sideline. And there's just a savvy way that he plays the game, and I think he's trying to impart that to players. It's been very positive, like I said, when he's on the field. There was a little bit of a hiccup off the field, in fact, off land on a boat prior to the start of training camp. It was during
training camp, yeah.
Yeah, it was during mini camp.
Okay.
But he seems to overcome that, and I think that is in his past with the Patriots. It hasn't finished well, it seems, in other places, but it's off to a good start in New England, and we'll see where it goes. Right? They needed somebody like that. They don't have a game breaker yet, and he's not that guy, but I think a reliable stick mover for Drake May at this stage of his career, somebody who will get open, somebody who's going to run good routes, and somebody who can be a leader by example, at least, in that wide receiver room, which has been lacking in recent years.
So when I say this, I'll say it, and I don't necessarily need to credit names and stuff like that. It's just I've been told by so many people who know more about it than us and it was when Steph was here with Adam Thielen. Stephon Diggs is one of the best route running receivers in the history of Minnesota Vikings football. Adam Thielen is too. Randy Moss is too. And it gets into depth of route. It gets into how fast you're going at the top of the route, and when you show your hands, exactly like you said. I mean, I've heard that for years about Stephon Diggs, so, I don't know where he is off a knee situation and at this stage of his career, but no, he cares. When Steph cares, and when Steph is engaged, and when Steph is not all up into the cryptic tweets and being things that just really, with all due respect, seem to change with him after the Minneapolis Miracle, and he got a big Geico deal and things like that. Just things changed a little, then all of a sudden he was gone, and he was in Buffalo. But no, Steph can play the game, as Jeff Okuda learned yesterday. But, you mentioned looking for game-breaking receivers, stuff like that. I don't need to remind you, you're an elite football mind. But the last time an Eastern Washington wide receiver was tearing up training camp and people were talking about it, it was Cooper Kupp with Sean McVay's Rams. Well, now we have Efton Chisholm III, who was undrafted. I watched back half the game you guys had against the Commanders. He had popped there, and I watched him here yesterday. I mean, 1,000 times more about it than me, man. I've looked at the wide receiver. DeMario's better than he was last year. Diggs is in the mix. This Chisholm's going to make the active 53. Do you think he has a chance?
Well, I think he should. I think he has a great chance.
Wow.
And
undrafted, the guy's fantastic.
Absolutely. And he keeps getting better. His play strength, too, for a guy his size. Josh McDaniels had him watch video of Danny Amendola in particular, really study Amendola in this offense. And there are a lot of similarities. I think a lot of people go to Kupp because of the Eastern Washington connection, and he has been a huge influence on Efton, as I understand it, or Edelman. But it's really Amendola to me, and I think the added value of being able to handle punt returns, at least as a competent backup to Marcus Jones, only enhances his value. I think going into camp, he was one of those guys with a shot in a group of 3 or 4 receivers for maybe the last 1 or 2 spots. Well, Jalen Polk, a second-round pick from last year, is probably headed to IR. I don't know that for certain, but he injured his shoulder against Washington, and he's been a disappointment since the Patriots took him out of the University of Washington.
Second-rounder?
Second-rounder. Yeah. Javon Baker, who was a 4th-rounder a year ago, and is a guy with skills and strength, able to high point balls, jump ball receiver. He's getting a lot of looks on special teams. I think he's in the running for that last receiver spot or two. But to me, I don't think the Patriots can risk exposing Efton Chisholm if he doesn't make the 53. And I was listening to your head coach yesterday talk about the injury to Moore and the need for a punt returner. and perhaps another wide receiver. I was thinking Chisholm's running all over this place, catching back. He snags the ball well. He's able to get open. He's got that great shiftiness, change of direction.
Isn't that the downside of these joints once in a while, though? I mean,
slow down.
A week of free scouting right here in front of our faces.
Absolutely. That was one of the trademarks of Bill when the Patriots would have joint practices. By the end of the year, at least by the trade deadline, Bill would always have, or at least maybe the next year, he would always have one or two guys that he would pick off another team's roster after seeing them in joint practices.
All right, lastly here, Bob Socci, extended conversation. We'll make it the marathon courtesy of Steve's Appliances and stevesappliances.com. Love chatting with play-by-play guys, especially Bob Socci, which we've done at the Combine before. Lastly, is Boston and Greater Massachusetts overall a Pats, Sox, C's, or B's town?
It's become a Pats town.
Past
region.
the Sox.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Certainly in my time.
Rico Petrocelli be damned.
My station, which is the dominant station in the marketplace, 98.5 The Sports Hub. If you want the needle to move on our airwaves, they talk Patriots.
Our program director has said for years, football always wins.
Doesn't matter what time of the year it is. Part of that, I think, is after the Red Sox won the World Series in 2004, and obviously baseball's appeal with younger audiences has waned.
Good point.
But I think also, the nostalgia, the charm of the Red Sox overcoming the curse was one thing. But then the ownership of the Red Sox, it's not locally rooted ownership. They've made a lot of decisions, including this year at the trade deadline. It seems like they're very budget conscious for an organization.
What's that all about?
In a market like Boston,
Yeah.
When they're competing against the Yankees as one of baseball's, Goliaths.
Yeah.
I think that there's just a lot of disfavor on the part of the fan base there for the organization's hierarchy.
Wow.
That being said, I think it's just more or less a reflection of where football is today in this culture.
Okay.
Is there a stronger cultural force, at least in the sports world, in this country, and that includes New England. And I think baseball's appeal, when we hear phone calls to our station, for example, they're generally older fans. They're people like me that grew up waxing poetic about baseball, the hit and run, the sacrifice,
hitting the other way. Yeah.
Again, you want to move the needle in sports talk radio in Boston, you got to bring up the Patriots.
Great point. So Devers was moved to the Giants from a financial standpoint because he was incredibly popular there.
He was incredibly popular with the fans. I think that, the ownership group, at least, since the trade, has tried to justify it. I think there have been a lot of things said about his attitude. They wanted him to make a position switch. Of course, they signed Bregman during the offseason.
Yep.
Devers, I think, was my understanding, based on only what I've read and heard over the airwaves, was not disgruntled, but upset about moving from third base.
Got it.
Accepted the DH role. Then they wanted him to make a shift to first base. I don't know that it was necessarily communicated well, handled well. Since the trade, things have come out dribs and drabs about Devers in the clubhouse, etc. They just signed Roman Anthony, a very good-looking rookie, to a long-term contract. And a lot of people have asked, why didn't they do that with, why didn't they please Devers? Why did they trade him away and not get much in return?
Now Roger, lastly here, and I love baseball, and I always have, and I have the extra innings package, and I'm a racetrack announcer, so I'll get home from Canterbury Park, and I'll settle in, eat some food. Used to listen to Dave Sims call Mariners games. Of course, God rest the soul of Vin Scully with the Dodgers, and so on and so on. And I just always have liked that, probably like you with the East Coast market. But when it comes to that market, like Roger Clemens' baseball immortality, that's HOF right there. But what you mentioned with the younger generation paying or not paying attention to baseball as closely, fantasy baseball is OG. It was the first of all the fantasies. People looking at box scores and the Agate page and writing stuff down. So this may be a dumb question, but say Garrett Crochet, for the next 10 years, continues to do what he's doing now, he wouldn't be embraced in that market like Clemens, or like that popularity can't get that high because baseball's just not as important anymore?
I think it depends, Paul. I think it depends on how Crochet embraces the community. I would say that, Mookie Betts had an opportunity to be a real star in Boston. And I think there was a lot of fan appeal for Mookie Betts. And there's another example of a player the Red Sox dealt away. And when you look back in retrospect,
that's tough.
They didn't get a whole lot in return.
Right.
It didn't go well for Boston in the long run. But whatever justification Sox ownership might want to use for that deal. And there's an example of a young guy who could have been one of Boston's big stars. There are non-Patriots that are certainly in that stratosphere in Boston. Jason Tatum has an opportunity to be there. Jaylen Brown, I think, had an opportunity to be there until this past playoffs when the Celtics, in the eyes of fans, underachieved. And they want to see Tatum become the guy when he does return from his injury. But he still has that opportunity, I believe. And I think if Brown sticks around, the Celtics are able to recover from last year's playoffs, get Tatum back, and make a run to another championship. Those are guys who will be elevated. Hockey is still, there's the hardcore fans, but in Boston in particular, there's a greater hockey audience, I think, than in most markets in the U.S. And you guys being in Minnesota.
State of hockey here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So I think there are players, for the Bruins, Patrice Bergeron was one of those guys. But
so when Marchand left, they were mad.
They were mad, yeah. But I think also, too, recognizing where the Bruins are, they were also of a mindset that said, good for him. Yeah. He has a chance to go win it. To think of Bruins fans rooting for the Panthers during the Stanley Cup playoffs this year.
Sounds like Twilight Zone.
Wow.
Exactly. But I think there was a fair number, my sense is, who were rooting for Marchand to win another title.
Yeah, and another common thread with this market would be college hockey. I mean, the Beanpot's immortality, but with the Terriers and with BC and Northeastern and everything that goes into that. Here you got the University of Minnesota, you got Duluth, Mankato, St. Cloud, Bemidji, North Dakota. I mean, it's college hockey's important in Beantown, right?
Absolutely. One of the things that really struck me being a broadcaster when I was new to Boston is that there wasn't a lot of local programming that was aired on the regional networks when it comes to play-by-play. A lot of other places I've been, particularly when I lived in the Midwest, you had Big Ten schools, and you had the mid-major conferences that had television packages on the regional networks. Well, when I got to New England, you had the majors, and then you had college hockey. Yeah. And not much else. Not a lot of college football, not a lot of college basketball in comparison that are produced locally. Now, granted, there aren't a lot of Division 1A teams in that region, but certainly a big difference in Boston. And getting to know the college hockey scene a lot better.
Beanpot.
It's a great atmosphere. I love college hockey. I like the Stanley Cup playoffs, but I don't enjoy the NHL regular season as much as I like watching college hockey.
Right. You're fantastic. Thank you very much for the marathon chat. And look forward to seeing you at U.S. Bank Stadium this weekend. I know you've called games there. And last one, that Thursday, Thanksgiving night. Kane Wanwu on the sideline, kick return touchdown. Mac Jones was there playing.
He went for like 350 against the Vikings.
And yeah, that's right. He had a big night. Was that Thanksgiving or Halloween?
It was the best game of his career.
I think it was Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Yeah. But thank you very much, and thank you for being so kind. And I look forward to seeing you this weekend.
Paul, thank you so much. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
See you, bud.
All right,
that's Bob Socci, the Vox for the New England Patriots. That was awesome. Nordo and yours truly, Paul Allen, watching the players slowly begin to filter onto the field. Special teams guys are out there now. Hey, it's Parker Romo, who hit a 57-yard field goal against the Commanders. The joint practices are about to begin, and when we return, we will play an interview that I recorded yesterday with Vikings wide receiver and punt returner one. His name is Lucky Jackson, and that's next on KFAN.